welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the show in which we find out the wisdom of children is seated within adults. That doesn't sound right. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, all of you, and joining us today, the lovely Chaos Eve.
Hello, everyone.
As Chaos Eve. For those of you that don't know who Chaos Eve is, Chaos Eve, tell people who you are and what you do.
Oh, I'm nobody. I'm just a random Twitch thought that Scribe likes to watch sometimes and drop horrible, horrible puns in her chat.
Yes, so. that's all you are, and that's all I do. And if you'd like to find out more about all of what Eve does, you can find links to her YouTube channel, Twitch stream, and Twitter in the description. How are you doing today, Eve?
I'm doing pretty good. I've only been up about an hour or two, so yeah.
Well, you should be well rested for a wonderful experience of TEDx.
So wonderful. Oh, I need another shot.
I know it's gonna be amazing. I promise it'll be amazing. But before we get into that, who is here with us today on this scatological Sunday, I guess? I don't know. Matt Barnes, hello. Zalbla, hello. Keeverdam, hello. Tall Person, hello. Tall Person also. Thank you so much. Hoy all, can't watch live. We'll watch in full later. Happy National Cranberry Relish Day.
That's a very odd holiday.
Did you say that's a very odd holiday?
Oh, God, no.
That one's sort of Britannia, hello. Saxon Ross, hello. Asian Hippie, hello. Richard Moreau, hello. Debate Fly, hello. Spyro Girl, hello. Wade Waleson, hello. Mike R, hello. Cyber Grendel, hello. Cyber Grendel, do you fight Cyber Beowulf by any chance? From Num Num Nation, hello. Dogcat Fox, hello. Dogcat Fox, what are you doing on the chat again? Are you on the chat again? Wowie, wow, wow. Okay, you're on the chat again. All right, fine. Let's see who else. Bigorit, hello. Mr. No, hello. X4390247, hello. Emperor WR Costin, hello. Dina B, hello. Tux Mint, hello. John Smith, hello. Spittlebuggies, hello. Check Your Logic, hello. If I didn't already say hello. Jake Tungseth, hello. Who else is here? And then Chat Jump, because of course it is. Robert Pincus, hello. No Name, hello. Skull Maggot 99, hello. Oh boy. Richo8181, hello. Nobody Not Me, hello. Justin Anderson, hello. Anybody else I've missed? Probably a lot. Luke Skywalker 2, hello. Lexi Mads. Well, now that Lexi's here, we can actually start for officialdom.
Oh, good.
Because we can actually start until Lexi's here. And if Lexi shows up late, I have to rewind the whole show and start from the back again.
Uh-oh. Well, I'm glad she's here.
Robert Gruber, hello. It's probably Robert Gruber, but all the same. Kefke, hello. Megan Ring, hello. And I think that's everyone. If I missed anyone, I apologize, guys. But we got to get into this. This is a long one. This is a 16-minute, 16-minute and 30-second video. And the title of today's video is The Revolutionary Truth About Kids and Gender.
So exciting.
Are you ready for a revolution?
I cannot tell you how revolutionary this is going to be for me. It's going to be so great.
Remember, guys, get your bingo cards ready. Link is in the description. And with that, we'll start off with a few seconds for sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear this, and then we will proceed. Okay. Why do I get vibes of Lindsay from Queer Kid Stuff when I look at our speakers? Everybody hear that? Everybody hear the applause and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. No, yeah, I do.
Sounds clappy, so some animation. All right. Okay, so this is TEDx Minnesota. So it looks like an art gallery. All right, let's find out what we're here to learn today.
Are you a mommy
or a
daddy?
In what context?
I could be your mommy.
I was about to say, it's like, in what context?
The little boy called to me one day when I went to pick my youngest son up from the daycare playground. He looked up at me curious.
Image courtesy of Shutterstock. Or Shutterstock.
Right.
Okay. Waiting for my answer. But before I answered him, I thought about...
Wait. What? Sorry. Okay, I cut her off. I apologize. I'm going to back up just a little bit to make sure. Because was your own child asking you if you're a mommy or daddy?
think it was another random kid that was there when she went to our.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you a mommy or a daddy? The little boy called to me one day when I went to pick my youngest son up from the daycare playground. He looked up at me curious, waiting for my answer. But before I answered him, I thought about how many times in my life I've been asked that essential question. Are you a boy or a girl?
And
sometimes it's actually been more of an accusation, meant to make me feel shame for having an androgynous or ambiguous gender presentation. Sometimes the question's been hurled at me with menace, meant to make me feel unsafe because I've made someone else feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, that never happens to quote unquote normal kids.
I know, right?
Other kids making you feel bad or small because you're different. I mean, I was always made to feel safe and accepted and normal amongst all the other kids when I was a kid.
Yeah, I know, right? Like totally wasn't bullied and literally spent my lunch break being chased around the building because somebody decided that they wanted to beat me up.
Yeah.
Pretty much every day.
Not to diminish her personal experience so much, but also to say it's entirely common. Kids will find any reason to make you feel bad, to do whatever. But okay, you were made fun of when you were a kid. All right.
Say in a public restroom.
Oh.
But often in my role as a pediatrician and as a parent, it's been asked with curiosity, without judgment. A child's genuine attempt to put me into the categories known to them. Now, this little guy was probably about 3 or 4 years old, and
that little guy is a stock photo. But,
yeah, he is. She didn't stop and take a picture of the child. It's like looking up, gazing up at her. It's like, hold on, while you're asking me this question, let me take a picture of you so I can use it in my TEDx talk later. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
His tone that he was asking out of curiosity.
Yes.
He genuinely wanted to know which of the 2 adult categories known to him did I fit into.
Well, I'd answer, but I'm sure I'd offend somebody.
Please offend somebody.
I think you're a woman. I'm pretty sure you're a woman, but okay.
Was I a mommy or a daddy? You see, I look quite a bit like a daddy, but I sound an awful lot like a mommy.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you don't. Immediately upon you arriving, I knew exactly what to classify you as, biologically speaking. You don't a sweater and jeans and a short haircut and a ridiculous bow tie does not a daddy make you. Sorry, I know. Maybe you think you do better than you do in presenting, but no, sorry.
Yeah.
So I bent down and I said to him, you know what? I'm not a mommy or a daddy. I'm a mappa.
Okay. Off to the bingo card. We are going to go for makes up new buzzword, buzz phrase, because no, you are not a mama and a papa. That is a band. All the leaves are brown and the skies are gray.
Hold up. I need one of these bingo cards. Hang on.
Okay, yeah. Links in the description. Get your bingo card ready. You might have to open it up in I just have mine open in Paint. Basic MS Paint.
Yeah, no, that's probably what I'm going to do too.
So it's a mama and a papa.
Stop it.
Brown, and the sky is gray. And the sky is gray. All right, so you're a mappa. All right, let's go. Free space and attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. We have circled both of those. I could conceivably circle plays victim since she's already gone into the I was made fun of as a kid kind of thing, but I'm going to wait on that a little bit. Hell, let's just go over the card. We're only a minute 25 now. Let's see. Marginalized marginalization, not yet. Takes credit for something done experienced by others in their demographic, not yet. Leaves out vital context. I'm sure we're getting there. Feminism, no. Microaggressions, no. Anecdote that probably never happened. I can believe a kid asked her this question. I can believe it. So, contradicts own point or argument. We haven't gotten there yet. Toxic, new. Plays victim, again, maybe. Word salad, not yet. Mind reading assumes motives. I bet we'll get there. Benevolent condescension, probably. A list. Yep.
We might get the whole page today.
We may. Patriarchy, no, not yet. Wage gap, no. Systemic institutional, not yet. Privilege, no. Childhood or family anecdote. Well, she talked about being made fun of as a kid, so yeah, that's childhood anecdote. Circle in childhood or family anecdote. Self-vilification or wretchedness, not yet, and I'd be surprised if so.
Yeah.
Equity, no. Weightless example, not yet. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Well, since the talk deals with gender, I don't think we'll get by on sex for no reason, but we'll see. And white supremacy, no. So far we have circle guys for reference, attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, free space, and childhood or family anecdote. Let us continue with whatever we're going to get next with MAPPA. MAPPA. Sounds like something from like the Muppets. I don't know.
A MAPPA, he said.
Uh-huh.
What's that?
Uh-huh.
Well, I explained,
Yes.
a MAPPA is like a mommy and a daddy, both. Oh, okay, he said. So then, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Ah. Uh-huh.
Meaning kids don't literally give a shit.
And what it took this little guy seconds to accept.
It's a child. He doesn't exactly have the highest critical thinking skills. You just pointed it out by saying he went from, are you a mommy or a daddy, to, what's your favorite dinosaur?
He has no idea what the hell you just said. And he goes, oh, I don't know what that is, and moves on.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally kids. Like,
Now, please do not tell me that the short attention span of a child is going to turn into some kind of profound example of how, if only everyone could think like little children. Because I'll tell you what, that's not the wisest wish in the world.
It often takes grown-ups a lot longer to unlearn and realize that more exists among human beings than can be answered with the simple question, are you a boy or a girl?
You got two options. If we're talking anyway, this is going to be this whole presentation, isn't it?
I'm already drinking.
I know.
Are you a man or a woman?
Uh-huh.
Are you a mommy or a daddy?
Uh-huh.
What I'm here to talk to you about today,
Yes.
as a pediatrician,
Which is a scary thought in and of itself, given what your preamble has been, but okay, as a pediatrician.
who specializes in caring for transgender and gender diverse kids,
Oh, okay.
as a parent with 3 young kids of my own.
Yeah, that's the scariest thought. Okay, now I'm not going to mind read or assume motives. I find the notion of applying gender questions and or trans questions to children inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
But then, what do you think, Eve?
Trans children is a very, very touchy subject.
That's the one that I'm more, because that involves a whole extra layer of stuff that just, yeah. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's one of those things that I'm not opposed to the idea that a child can know from a very young age that they are trans, that there's something off, that they don't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
However, I very, very strongly caution any parent or authority of any kind of taking that idea seriously, because children can change their mind on those kind of things at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
What you want to watch for is consistency. What you want to watch for is things of them continuously doing this kind of thing over time. What you want to watch for is something you might need to take them to a doctor about,
Mm-hmm.
to talk to a professional, not this person, but somebody who is actually, has an unbiased, I would say, opinion, because this person doesn't seem to specializing in trans kids. No.
Yeah, that's in her opening example. Again, I'll probably end up coming back to this over and over again over this talk. Are you a mommy or daddy? What's your favorite dinosaur? The unfiltered curiosity and also just the randomness of a child's mind and attention to the world, themselves, the people around them, and so on and so forth, that I'm just going to, for lack of a better phrase, the instability of that focus is not something you want to rely upon when it comes to deep, long-term, meaningful life questions.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that a child expresses in any way like that, otherwise, you got to ask yourself, is it the kid saying this? Or is the kid saying this because that's what he thinks the parent wants to hear? Especially if you have a parent who's focused on this subject to begin with.
Yeah.
So like you say, it's got to come from the kid. It's got to be unsolicited, you know?
Because the kid's not going to care about anything other than, oh, this makes mommy and daddy happy when I say it, so
right.
Why not? I don't care.
Yeah.
Boy, girl, that doesn't matter to me. I just want to play with dinosaurs. I just want to play with Legos, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever gets me to that faster.
Yeah, if you hit 12, 13 and onward and things start coalescing that way, okay, you know, but up until then, I get very, very cautious in my mind about young children being either expected to already possess knowledge that most people don't have throughout the course of their whole lives about themselves, especially when it's coming from somebody who obviously has, like you say, a bit of a biased perspective on the subject. But okay, let's see where we go.
And as a person who identifies as both queer and gender diverse.
How can you be gender diverse? What does that mean? There's two. Or one or the other. You comport yourself as one or the other. Whatever. I don't care. But what's the name of the third gender? Just tell me what that is.
All right.
Is how kids understand both simple and complex ideas of gender identity, and where the journey that many young transgender and gender diverse kids are on today will ultimately lead all of us.
What?
Okay, so she makes the point there that I'm going to dispute very heavily of the fact that she says kids understand. Kids don't understand. That kid looked at you when you said MAPA. Excuse me. That kid looked at you when you said MAPA and was like, I have no idea what that is. Let me ask them about something that I do know what it is. What's your favorite dinosaur? You know, and moved on because they had no fucking clue what this person was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this example is going to come up over and over again. That kid did not suddenly understand what you were talking about. That kid didn't care what you were talking about and went off to something that was familiar, that they could comprehend, because they couldn't comprehend what you were saying. They weren't accepting of it. They just didn't give a rip because it was unimportant. And admittedly, that's, I hope, where we get at some point in society, where all this stuff is effectively unimportant. You know, it does not define someone. They're not judged on the basis of it or anything else. Do what you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else. Fine, whatever.
There's a very good reason that in my bios and stuff, I never list myself as trans because it's not what I want to be seen as a trans woman.
Yeah.
You know, I never point out to someone that I have gender dysphoria unless it is relevant to a conversation. As a matter of fact, most arguments that I have regarding this kind of thing, I pointedly do not bring it up because I don't want it to be a factor of like my opinion or my thoughts weigh any more heavily because, you know, unless it's like directly related to an experience I've had than someone else's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And just for full disclosure, both you and everybody else, I mean, when I saw this TEDx, I was going to do it and I thought, I should have somebody on who has some idea about this. At the same time, I was actually hesitant to approach you about joining me for this one because I wasn't sure, like, maybe she doesn't want to talk about it. Maybe it's just like something that she's sick of having to deal with or discuss. And so that's why, you know, I approached you privately to say, hey, I got this thing about this thing. You want to join? Because, I mean, I don't know, you know. At the same time, I'd like to proceed into these kind of things having, especially something I have no personal clue about, with somebody has some idea about, but I wasn't sure whether that was something you wanted to discuss at all.
Yeah, it's one of those things of, it's like I mentioned before the stream, I have to make sure that I do it in degrees because doing it can be a level of stress for me.
Sure.
The entire point of transitioning in general is to help deal with my gender dysphoria.
Mm-hmm.
It is, for lack of a better way to describe it, a complicated illusion that I build around myself in order to not think about a biological fact of my existence. So having to directly address it, yes, can be stressful. And so I only try to do so in moderation and not, because my mental health suffers otherwise. But it is something that if I'm prepared for it, I can do.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because like I said, ultimately I want to get to a point as a society where none of this is relevant at all. In the sense that it doesn't have to be said, it doesn't have to be dwelled upon unless it's, directly important to somebody or vital for some situation. But yeah, we have, when it comes down to the treatment of children in this regard, that's where I'm eternally concerned. If things develop naturally of their own accord and there's a support system for that when the time comes and it's not anything that there's any pressure one way or the other on, great, fine. I hope we get to a point in our world, in our society, where that's the way things go. You just let a kid be a kid and let them figure themselves out as they go, not be dictated to or corralled or wrangled into a way of thinking. Whether it's indoctrination about their makeup, whether it's indoctrination about ideology, these things, especially my series on my channel, Curriculum of Fear, the molding of young minds towards a specific outcome based on the teacher's intentions is very disturbing to me. And this is one example of that. Or it may be. I don't know. We haven't watched the whole thing yet, but we're taking too much time already. Sorry. I tend to get long-winded when I'm concerned about something.
You're fine. You're totally fine.
So let's start with how kids understand gender identity.
Okay.
Well, from the age of about 2, kids can understand gender differences. Now,
differences. They can see difference. That does not mean they comprehend the impact of what that means for a lifetime.
I would like to point out that it is possible to train my dog to recognize the difference between the shape a circle and a square.
Yes.
It doesn't mean they understand why they're different. They just know that they're different.
Yes, this is what comes up. I hear this example brought up over and over and over again. By the age of whatever, single digits, children can recognize different. Recognizing a difference does not mean comprehension of the weight of what that means for a lifetime.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean, now, in the next breath, she may say something otherwise. But if already she's got one example of a kid's attention span being that of a gnat, which they are, and you've got telling me that a baby can tell the difference between a mechanical thing and a fluffy thing. That doesn't, no, come on.
Now, this is mostly based on physical characteristics and anatomy.
Yes.
As they sort and put people into categories, boys and girls, mommies and daddies. Kids at 2 are actually very good at putting things into categories, and they're very concrete and binary thinkers. So this is a fun and easy task for them. As they move into age 3 and 4, they then begin to figure out where they fit. They've seen the categories and they're turning the lens inward to discover where they fit in the categories that have been explained to them, most of which are boy and girl. Now,
No, not explained to them, observable in reality. It's like that whole assigned at birth kind of thing. Come on.
It is the way they use the phrasing in medical terminology. The problem, I have a problem with that in general, though, like assigned at birth.
Yeah.
I think it's a misleading phrasing.
And I can't avoid keeping in mind this whole time, this lady's a pediatrician.
Yeah, that bothers me.
They often develop more sophisticated understanding of physical characteristics and anatomy around this time, and they're often not shy about sharing their discoveries with us. They may exclaim, "I'm a girl and I have a vagina." And that may happen in the pediatrician's office or in the checkout line at the grocery store.
Yes, because they are children and they don't know any better.
They do. My little brother fucking did it.
Yeah.
He would just be like, "I have a penis. I'm a boy.
I'm a boy."
Just one of those things you look at and go, "God damn it."
Well, I mean, it's kind of endearing when a little kid learns something new about the world and is excited to know something. Sometimes it's just that knowing something is an inappropriate thing to be talking about in the middle of dinner. But there you go.
Or yeah, like when my little brother went up to the pastor of the church that I grew up in, it was just like, I have to confess something. And he's like, what do you need to confess, little boy? And he's like, I farted in church. I'm just like, we're just like, and of course the pastor took it very well. I was just like,
oh, sure.
That's okay. We forgive you.
Yes, we forgive you. Okay.
They have figured out their place in the world, and they are...
No, they haven't.
No.
Come on, stop.
They have no idea.
Stop imposing onto children the sophistication of adulthood. Stop it. Even in these small ways, you're really weirding me out, lady. You really are. Oh, sorry, Mappa.
They have no fucking clue.
Claiming it. It shouldn't surprise you then that some transgender kids are also claiming their identities as young as 3 and 4 years old. They know the categories. They know how they should feel inside based on their anatomy. And they also know that the way that they see themselves doesn't line up with other people's expectations.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep pausing, but every instance now she says something absolutely ridiculous.
Why do you think I started drinking?
Yeah, I mean, 3 and 4 year olds know where they fit within the. They don't look. When did I realize that I was a grown-up boy? When did I even think about that stuff? And I know I'm just talking about me, but it's anecdotal speaking. What is the point of puberty? What is the point of discovering one's sexuality one way or the other? It's growth, and you don't get all the growth about figuring out what you think or what you feel or how you see yourself or what you, at 3. It just, no, stop it. Why are they? It's so creepy because it feels so like we have to get them while they're young enough to manipulate completely. And that's what it's, and I don't know, that's my interpretation. That's what it sounds like to me. When you start imparting upon toddlers a level of self-awareness, self-introspection that most 50-year-olds I know do not currently possess.
That's the thing, is that that's exactly how they do see it. It's like we need to get them early, because if we can teach them to be accepting and all this jazz early, then they'll turn out into non-transphobic people. And I'm like, that's not how that.
Don't really, like I said, if it's not made into an issue of judgment, if we just stop assessing one another on that basis in the first place. Anyway, that's a whole other video. Okay.
From as young as some kids can talk, they're explaining to their parents the truth about their identities. Now, as kids move beyond into the age of 4 and 5, they're starting to figure out gender role, or what does it mean to be a boy or a girl? This is when kids are understanding how they should act based on their gender identities, and they're learning about concepts like boys' toys and girls' toys for the first time, which... Or just... as has been shown in tests and studies that you're not citing, boys generally find themselves going towards more mechanical things, while girls find themselves going towards more fluffy things without any outside influence. Because there is a biological component to what differentiates male behavior from female behavior. It's not an end-all be-all, but it is there in the genetic code for whatever reason. You may move out of that phase as you grow up. It's possible as well.
There are very good biological reasons why those things happen, and we could get into the very nitty-gritty details of it. But the fact of the matter is, it's part of how we're wired. It's part of how evolution, of how we've survived as a species for so long, is because males and females fall into very rigid gender roles. I say very rigid. They fall into gender roles that are mostly that way. And that's for a very good reason. Men are typically stronger and bigger built, so they're usually the protectors of the family pack or what have you. Women are generally more, because of the estrogen in their bodies, generally more emotional, more caring, and are much better at dealing with the day-to-day of handling children, which is why typically mothers stay at home with their children while the fathers go out and work. I mean, and I get that doesn't apply to everyone, especially in today's society where those gender lines are blurred. But generally speaking, that's how we're wired. And if you moving away from that, we should have a damn good reason other than it hurts my fifis.
Yeah, the reflexive functions or the reflexive instincts of males versus females is like having a toolbox. You don't use a hammer to screw in a screw, and you don't use a screwdriver to measure a distance between 2 points. These things are about serving specific functions in a successful and thriving species and society and onwards. Our technology, everything else, has decidedly made those specific functions not necessarily as static as they used to be. That doesn't change the fact that these instincts, that these predilections are still wired into us. And as well, whether they stick with someone throughout their entire life or they move out of them by the time that they're 12 or 13, none of those things are inherently incorrect or wrong. And when this lady uses the word should, what they should think about this or what they should feel about that, it's not a should. It's just that they do. And if they don't, that's okay too. But putting everything into the only reason a kid would do this is because they're told to. No.
That's not the only reason. Obviously, this person did not grow into a place that because they were told this by their parents, and if they were, I'm very sorry for them. But this didn't come about because they didn't come to those conclusions of their gender and all this stuff because of things that their parents told them. They came to those conclusions on their own, and eventually you will reach that point where you can start to think for yourself, where your brain evolves enough to make decisions for yourself. Yeah. The thing we should be teaching kids is how to have critical thinking and think themselves and question things. Yeah.
And as with multiple other talks where similar complaints have been made or similar theories have been put out there, regardless of the demographic, I would just rhetorically ask our speaker, if society has shaped everyone's belief about how they should be and behave and everything else, why are you the way you are?
Yeah.
Why can't you just let every other kid decide for themselves to become the kind of person they want to be? Okay.
Even if we don't teach it to them, all it takes is one trip to Target to figure out which toys belong to who.
Oh, God. And so, could you sound more passive aggressive?
Like, seriously.
First figuring.
I was going to say, I played, I'm a bad example, but I played with all sorts of toys as a kid that were not, at least in my opinion, gendered, but, maybe they were to her. I don't know.
I ripped my share of Barbie heads off of Barbie bodies.
And you know what? Since this person has not shared their pronouns, I'm going to assume them. So yes, I'm a terrible human being. But
well,
you figure if they were going to come out on the stage, you'd be like, I have they them pronouns. My name is such and such. They them. That's what they would have wanted. Nope. Nope.
I am fine in referencing somebody if they care enough, one way or the other. If I have to be told, it's another thing. But whatever. I'm talking to a screen right now.
And so they're first figuring out what do they like. They're trying on different ways of dressing, different costumes. They're doing pretend and imaginary play. They're
wearing what their parents buy them.
Mm-hmm.
Playing with different types of toys. They're figuring out first what they like, and then is it okay or not? And this can actually be a hard time for all kids.
You think? Figuring things out growing up is a hard time? Man, wow, okay.
Not just kids who are transgender and gender diverse.
Really?
As they first figure out what they love.
Wait, transgender or gender diverse? What is the difference? I don't know what that means. Gender diverse. I'm not sure if I've heard that before. Talking about an individual, talking about the makeup of a workplace, sure, but talking about an individual. Is this the?
I don't know specifically, but I have a suspicion that she is, and rightly so, separating transgender people from non-binary and all the other genders that they color genders.
Okay. All right.
Rightly so, because they're different things.
Right.
figure out, might they be punished in big or small ways for being themselves? Now, I mentioned earlier that I'm a parent.
Yeah.
And I have 3 boys, or rather, I have 3 kids, 6, 6, and 4.
Okay, I have 3 boys, or rather, yes. Thank you, Andrew James. No message, but the hypnotized emoji. I'm right there with you. Okay, you have 3 boys, or rather,
who were assigned male at birth, and
why? You're gonna give me a masculanerism. Okay, your boys were assigned male at birth.
And continue to identify as boys. And when our kids were growing up, we tried to expand their gender categories just a little bit.
You know how creepy that sounds, lady? Why just to let them grow up? Why do you have to impose this on them when it's irrelevant? Why?
So instead of saying to them, these are boy parts and these are girl parts,
you decided to lie to them about biology? Thank you, Just Paul. On par with Queen Kids stuff. Another Lindsay. Well, queer kids stuff. Yeah. I mean, that was my comment when she first walked out on the stage. I was like, reminds me of Lindsay from Queer Kids stuff.
Yep.
But instead of talking about boy parts and girl parts, you did what?
We taught them that most boys have penises and most girls have vaginas.
Oh,
just
for crying.
To leave open the possibility that biology isn't destiny, and that how someone feels inside or their gender identity may not line up with expectations based on anatomy.
That is different. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No. I defer. The floor is yours.
Here's what you do. You don't present all of these ideas to kids and confuse the ever-loving fuck out of them. Instead, you tell them, look, you can talk to me about anything. If you're feeling a certain way and you just want to have a conversation about it, you can come talk to me because I'm the person who brought you into this world and I love you and I only want what's best for you. And I want you to always feel like you can come and talk to me about these kind of things. And if they bring these things up on their own, when they bring these things to you, you can go, okay, now let's talk about this. Now let's address this. Don't put this in their heads and shove this down their throats just because it's your thing. Like, I had this conversation with somebody last night. I was talking about how I was like, this person who I was speaking to is an atheist. And I was like, well, what would you do if your child had come to you about religion and said, I'm interested in this? And she said, I'm not, super comfortable with it myself, but I would have definitely taken him. And he did actually express interest in religion because we live in the South and, everyone around here is very religious and talks about those kind of things. But I would have taken him to someone who knew more than I did and could talk to him about these things. And if he chose to believe in that, I would have respected his decision, regardless of whether it's my decision or not. But that is not the same as turning around and shoving her atheism on him and telling him all the time there is no God and you shouldn't believe in it. It's stupid for you to do so. That's exactly what this woman is doing by shoving a gender ideology on her children and other children. Jesus Christ, other children. Fuck me.
I know. It's when I saw Pediatrician, I was like, oh boy, we're in for one now. And I didn't know that before I picked out the talk. I was like, just looked at the subject, but in this instance, it's like, oh boy, okay.
They actually adapted quite quickly to this. And I remember the day that one of my sons came up to me and he said, Mappa, I'm a most boy.
Imagine that, your own children saying things that you think are pleasing to you because children work to please their parents. Wow, that's surprising. Wow, your boys are one of a kinds. Okay, so they're already in the chat. Do I believe that this lady's son came up and said, I'm a most boy? I can believe it. This is the thing. Just about any short of her saying that her 5-year-old came in and recited War and Peace to her verbatim, anything that she says about her kids saying something that affirms her perspective on the world, I can believe, because they're being raised by the person looking for affirmation.
Well, even the thing is they raised this child to use the word mappa instead of mother or father.
Right.
So yes, I can believe that. And in the sense of I'm a most boy, whatever this is going to mean when she explains it, I can see a child seeing, well, mom/dad/mappa, whatever the fuck, has come up with their own description of how to describe their presence of being in the world. So maybe I can do the same thing,
Right.
Because kids like to emulate their parents.
Yeah. So far, the little kid that she used at the beginning as an example, and now her own children as an example to affirm her own beliefs on the world. Stop hiding behind children, and holy cow, stop hiding behind your own kids. Wowzers. Okay. Snow Pilot says, tell me we already ticked off buzzword buzz phrase. Yes, buzzword buzz. I'm sure there's several more we could circle, guys, so please be patient. I want to get through some more of this first. So
I thought, tell me just a little bit more about that. Well, he said, you know how most boys have penises, but some boys don't. I'm a boy that has a penis. I'm a most boy.
I could see the logic there.
I could, in a child's logic, yeah. So guys, that does not sound like an anecdote that never happened. That sounded legit. Whatever credit you want to give to that, but okay.
That sounds like I'm a boy. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah. What did Mom think about that one?
And yet, despite our attempt to expand gender categories a little bit for my kids, and despite them growing up with a parent who goes by the name of Mappa and who identifies as non-binary, my own kids still brought these gender expectations home with them.
Oh, no. I think you might have a phobia of quote-unquote gender expectations.
Yeah.
Sounds like a personal problem.
I remember one day when my son Theo, he's the beaming, smiling child here in the blue princess dress.
Like under normal circumstances, this would be a cute picture.
Yeah.
Let's just put that out there.
Yeah, I'm sure that they asked for those. Well, they may have asked for those dresses to be bought for them.
I remember when he came home from daycare one day with that exact dress in his backpack. And he said to me, Mappa, I don't want to bring this dress for show and tell anymore. Now, you can tell by this picture how much Theo loves that dress, and he used to love dressing up in costume, and I could tell it made him feel a little bit sad. So I said, Theo, tell me why.
Well, because the things I do at home that make you happy, other people have questions about.
It's not even other people have questions about. I could very much believe that other kids picked on him for it.
Well, that too, yeah. Okay, I'm being a little general, but yeah.
Well, he explained, one of my friends and one of my teachers told me that boys don't wear dresses. Oh, I said, okay. Well, Theo, do you remember when we talked about that clothes are for everyone and toys are for everyone?
Please don't tell me that you literally sent your son to the daycare and told him to wear the dress. That you didn't set this up to have this conversation, to establish this experience for your kid. Please don't tell me that you were that manipulative. I know I'm being rhetorical and asking the question, but I have to wonder. Thank you, Ebony Williams, for the marching lemon and little... It's a lime. I know people say it's a pear. I'm sorry. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Doesn't make any sense.
A lemon and a pear would be marching together. And I know that there's pear. He's just slightly pear-shaped. He's a lime.
Lemons and pears marching together.
Mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria.
All right. Thank you, Ebony. Okay, so your kid got made fun of for wearing a dress at school or at daycare. Okay. A daycare, mind you, daycare.
In our family, you can wear whatever clothes you want. In our family, it's okay for boys to wear dresses. Now, in some families, boys might not get to wear dresses, but those aren't the rules in our house, and that's not the rules in our family. I know, he said. I just don't want to anymore.
Uh-oh. And then what did you say?
And you know what?
Yeah?
He never did.
Wait. You mean you allowed him to make his own decision without recrimination? Okay, I'm intrigued.
And not only did he never bring that princess dress for show and tell anymore, he really stopped dressing up and playing princess after that.
Uh-huh.
And was it because at 4.5, he was...
4.5. Okay, continue.
Ready to be done dressing up as a princess and playing pretend?
Well, why wouldn't he be? 4-year-olds know exactly where they fit in the whole gender spectrum, the same wisdom they would have if they were adults, right?
Yep.
So you respected his decision. You understood that he had made his choice for himself, and that's fine and healthy, isn't it?
This is going to come down to she's disappointed her kid's not trans.
Maybe. Or was it because he was worried that if he brought that dress back to show and tell again and violated the rules of being a boy, that he might be punished for that?
I don't know. Which do you believe it was? What did you do after this? I'm dying to know, because you just spent the first part of this telling us that children have the wisdom of the ages all by themselves, and now your son apparently does not possess that wisdom because you think he was bullied out of it. Or maybe in a circumstance and in a situation that wasn't just there to please Mappa, he realized that he really wasn't all that comfortable with it. So which was it? You tell me.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'll never know the answer to that for sure. But what we do know is that by the time most kids are 6 and 7 years old, they are conforming into traditional gender roles.
And that is a cardinal sin for you, isn't it?
Yes, because 99.99% of children, people fall into traditional gender roles.
Yeah, which is a terrible thing for this lady, especially her own children.
Sorry, 99.98. Sorry.
I wonder what her other 2 kids are up to. But anyway.
What I mean by that is that girls are becoming more feminine, boys are becoming more masculine.
God forbid.
They're starting to conform their hairstyles, the way they dress, the toys they play with, their peer groups, to what society expects of them.
Or what they feel naturally comfortable doing. Do you disallow for the possibility that all these people are just going with what feels comfortable for them? Just like what you're doing presumably feels comfortable for you? Can you extend that benefit of the doubt to other people? Or is everyone just a victim of society? Like, I think you feel you were or are. You're not projecting, are you? A little, maybe?
Based on their gender identities. Now, is this because naturally boys and girls are different?
Yes.
Why do we have 2 different names for things then? Naturally, boys and girls are they? Are you really asking that question? Are you really asking that question, pediatrician? Pediatrician. Are boys and girls naturally different?
I'm trying really hard because I know we still have so much video to get through. We're not even halfway through yet, are we?
We are just halfway through.
Oh, okay. Even still, it's a lot to get through still, and there's so many different directions I want to take this. But
yeah. Okay. Let's take a quick diversion to the bingo card. Since we are at the halfway point, let's review. Marginalization. Hasn't used the terms yet. I'll take arguments for aggregate after we get past the video. Takes credit for something done, experienced by others in their demographic. Not specifically, no. She hasn't really talked, aside from her own family, she hasn't talked about herself too much. You know, I mean, she's telling us basically what's going on in her brain by doing this talk, but leaves out vital context. I haven't felt the urge to say, what are you talking about? Or I don't know. Yeah, not explicitly yet. I'll take arguments later. Feminism. No, not really. Microaggressions and conscious bias.
Unconscious bias, yes.
Yeah, she's talking about society's expectations and this, that, and the other. So I'll definitely circle that one. Anecdote that probably never happened. I believe her anecdote so far, especially the one where she tells us that the outcome was not desirable. I can believe that because it's not self-aggrandizing. And so far, she hasn't given me any anecdotes that I think are absolutely false. Contradicts own point or argument. I'm not sure we've gotten to her argument or point yet. She's made a lot of claims. I suppose we'll get there. Toxic, no. Plays victim, yes.
Toxic as in they're being toxic, or
well, so toxic is right now one of the squares on the block to be switched out with something else because it's a very specific word and or concept like toxic masculinity.
Oh, using the word toxic. Okay.
Yeah, using the word toxic or something very similar like this is poisonous. This is of all the squares currently on the card, toxic is probably the weakest
we're
one.
Moving towards her saying that.
Could be. So yeah, like I said, I haven't circled it yet. Could be we get there. It's still the one that's being considered to be replaced on the card. Word salad. I mean,
I think she's been pretty clear with her terms.
Yeah, I haven't heard just a string of words that mean nothing yet. So let's wait on that one. Mind reading assumes motives. Yes. The should do this, should do that. Our boys this, our girls that. Society's expectations, onward and onward, yeah. Benevolent condescension. Well, I mean, talking about mostly boys and mostly girls and this. I don't know. Do you think that counts quite yet? I don't know. Maybe wait on that.
I don't know.
I'll sit on that one. A list. She hasn't given us a list per se.
Yeah, I don't recall a list yet.
And again, guys in the chat, I'm trying to pay attention to chat, but I can't read every comment. If I have missed something specific, please hold it until after we get done with the whole deal, and then we'll go over the card again. Patriarchy, no. Wage gap, no. She hasn't talked about economics yet. Systemic institutional. She's talked about society. I'll wait on that one too. Maybe she'll get more specific. Privilege, no. Self-vilification or wretchedness, no.
Definitely not.
Equity. No, not specifically or yet. Weightless example. I need to know what her argument is first to be able to tell if anything she said so far matters because she really hasn't gotten there yet. She's just complaining that societal expectations are bad. The end so far.
Yeah.
Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Now she's had a reason. And white supremacy, no. Okay, so what we have circled so far, guys, microaggressions, unconscious bias, attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, plays victim, mind reading assumes motives, free space, and childhood or family anecdote. Thank you, Just Paul. So sorry, your boy isn't trans. Not drunk enough for this. Sometimes people need to lose custody. I'm not going to go that far. I don't know. I have only the small version of reality that's presented in this TEDx talk. It is concerning to me. I'll just say that. It's concerning to me, especially her role as a pediatrician and asking the question, are there differences between boys and girls? That alone makes me go like, really? You're walking into an office with that mindset? Okay, moving on.
Or is this because our society has very strict expectations of how boys and girls should act based on their identities?
No.
The research would tell us that it's probably some of both.
And
honestly, we'll probably never know the answer to that question for sure.
But you're going to operate as though you already have it? Probably,
Yep.
probably.
Yep.
Okay.
But here's one thing that we do know.
Okay.
What we do know
Yes.
is that kids who violate our expectations around gender are punished for doing so.
Okay, you are so projecting your own bitterness about your own experience.
Yeah.
You really are. And you know what? I am sorry. I grew up being bullied. I got picked on. I was small and I was quiet and I was shy and I had glasses at first grade. I had everything lined up against me and I got the short end of the stick on countless occasions. And you know what? It sucks. It really sucks. But you gotta grow up. You really do. You gotta take what you have of yourself and say, that was other people being children treating me because I wasn't the same. And then I grew up and found out that they're no different in that they are different. And whether they ever got out of that mindset is their problem. It's no longer mine. Their bullying is no longer my problem. You have to accept that at some point.
You can't hang on to shit. Like,
man, I've said this before, and it won't be the last time. Oftentimes, TEDx is a one-person show of their own mind. And I think this might be one of them.
What we know is that 80% of transgender and gender diverse kids experience harassment in schools?
What about kids in general? And that's not to take away the specificity here, but
80% of them do, because most kids are harassed in school. Like statistically, most kids have some kind of bullying. The difference is the ones who deal with it well don't get bullied repeatedly.
Take any demographic of child. I don't care what it is, whether it's height, race, gender, whatever. Take any demographic, and I'll bet you, like Eve just said, the ratio of how many will be bullied in school, probably 80%. Because that's what it is. You have a certain level of kids, of a mindset, of an attitude, who will always be the bullies, and then you have everybody else who acts normally otherwise, or isn't a bully, let's say. Thank you, Puddock. A little childhood trauma builds character. Eddie from Ed, and Eddie. Yeah. Well, it either builds character or it defines you for your whole life if you allow it to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the two options. And I think, like I said, I'm not a psychiatrist. I do own a couch. I think that's what our speaker is doing right now.
You can either use your trauma to grow, or you can let it control you in your life. And
you can stew in your own juices. Yeah, you can stew in your own juices your whole life if you want to, and make everything stink as a result. Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, we know that the number one reason that kids are bullied in school is for gender nonconforming dress or behavior.
I'm gonna call bullshit.
Glasses at first grade, being smaller than the other kids and shy. And nothing. Now again, I'm anecdotal. I admit, I'm just anecdotal.
You get bullied for being different, not necessarily those specific things.
Yeah.
Girls who are too masculine or boys who are too feminine, regardless of their underlying sexual orientation or gender identity.
Which I would hope they don't have at that age. Don't you, doctor? That they don't have a sexual orientation in grade school, doctor?
We know that up to 60% of transgender kids are rejected by their parents, and that the disruption of this fundamental attachment has devastating consequences for their self-esteem. One of those consequences being that in some studies, trans and gender diverse kids are 8 to 9 times more likely to try to take their own life. And we also know that the world is changing. We know that in 2016, in the state of Minnesota, when we asked 9th and 11th graders to describe their gender identities to us.
I'm partially pausing because I need a breath, and also partially pausing because I do occasionally need to have to do that to prevent any claims of copyright violation.
I will point out that the claim about transgender kids, gender nonconforming kids being more likely to take their own lives has nothing to do with them being bullied. Because even when people are being kind and respectful towards you, your brain can still be a complete asshole.
Yeah. I've had at least, directly, I've had at least 2 people that I've known in my life who killed themselves while they had lots of friends, supportive family, and so on. But because their mental illness, whatever, their emotional disorder, everything else, didn't stop because other people were nice.
Mm-hmm.
That is the evil and insidious thing about having some kind of mental disorder or anxiety disorder or anything else, depression. You can't nice it away. You can't think it away. You can't logic it away. It's just there. And the thing is that you're also kind of aware that it's happening, but you can't do anything about it. That's where the whole concept of demons came from.
Mm-hmm.
You have this thing that's happening. You're rationally aware it should not be so, but it is, and it's doing its own thing. So, not to diminish the idea of people in whatever their situation needing support and assistance if they are, in that mindset. But at the same time, like you said, you could have everybody being nice and the whole world is falling apart inside your head.
Yeah, people being nice to you helps, or people being bullies to you can exacerbate the issue, but it isn't the issue to begin with. If you didn't have this problem already, it wouldn't be as big an issue. Yeah.
Okay. Where are we going?
Oh, and real quick, I did get a Streamlabs from Ebony. Thank you, Ebony Williams, for the $5. She said, "Here's money." Thank you, sweetie.
Oh, thank you, Ebony. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I think Stargazer or Keeverdam was posting it in their Streamlabs link.
Yeah,
so.
Keever was, yes.
Yeah, and also just reference their links to Eve's YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter in the description in case you want to follow along there. All right.
Us. That 2.8% of them, or nearly 3%, identified as transgender and gender nonconforming. That's close to 3 times what we've previously found in adult studies.
Is that because it's true or because society says it's something to get attention for? And I have to ask that question because it's a legitimate question.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
We also know that we're hearing new words and new language to describe gender identity all the time.
And you're about to tell us what those words and language are, but you're not rebroadcasting them for your own purposes, of course. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly from the young people in our lives.
Uh-huh.
Words like genderqueer, gender expansive, gender fluid, non-binary, bigender, agender, and on and on.
Yeah, almost like it turns into a big gray amorphous blob of meaninglessness, doesn't it?
Yeah. Look, my problem is there's too many labels for things that don't necessarily need to be labeled. You don't have to label the varying degrees of people's gender identities. And you can have a slightly masculine woman who doesn't give a shit about whether or not she's identified as male or female, doesn't give a shit what kind of pronouns. Because I know people like that. I don't know if you know Reject from the Minions.
Yeah.
Reject would be one of those people. She does not give a shit. She's a woman. She knows she's a woman, but she doesn't care about being feminine or girly. She doesn't care about going out of her way for that kind of stuff. But do we need to label her a special gender all herself? No.
You know what reject is? Reject is reject. That's
Exactly.
it. You don't need a label. It's like just however you want to be you. Everybody's got to be like adding some kind of tag onto their Twitter profile to show how super duper special they are.
Exactly.
I mean, and this is what so frustrates me about this constant reign of conceptualization of identities. These aren't identities. They say nothing about who you are. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I've said it so many times now. It's just like it's stuck in my brain. It's like gender's not an identity. Race is not an identity. Age is not an identity. On and on and on. Scribelight is an identity. Chaos Eve is an identity. This describes an individual person.
Yeah.
But I keep using. I love this. I love this comparison. White, male, heterosexual, bearded carpenter. All right, there's five elements there, right? Okay. Under the logic that I've heard so often, they'd be 5 different identities, right? Am I talking about Jesus Christ, or am I talking about serial killer Israel Keys?
It's a big difference.
Yeah, there's a big difference between those 2 individual people, but those 5 descriptors apply to both and say nothing about who they are. Anyway, sorry. Living a little energized right now. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the pepper jack or the subject matter or the company. It might be all 3.
Oh, I'm glad I energized.
We know that kids today...
Intersectionality. It's intersectionality of exposure here. Booze, entertainment, and company.
Are discovering their gender identities now more than ever. And they're finding new language and new models to share those identities with us. So you're thinking, I get it. This is a trend. This is a fad. This is cool. This is the next new thing. And my kid and the kid in my kid's class and the neighbor kid, and actually maybe even you, Dr. Gepford, you're part of this new wave, this cool trend.
Oh my God. I'd circle mind reading because she's effectively read my mind from beyond the TEDx wall. Okay, so what's your rejoinder to that? I'm very curious to know. Because, I mean, credit where credit is due. She's at least acknowledging the possibility that these upticks in numbers and all this stuff is a result of media exposure and popularity and trends and so on. All right. So what is your counter to that?
Of being transgender and gender diverse.
Yes.
Hold that thought.
I am.
For just a second.
Okay.
Let's go back to those 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds, the ones I was telling you about early on, the ones who are learning about gender categories and they're grabbing at words and language for the first time to describe that to others.
The 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds. Okay. Proceed.
Do you know what else those kids are learning how to do?
I don't know.
Do you know what else they love to do?
Talk about dinosaurs?
Yep.
I don't know.
They are learning how to color.
Please do not. Okay. Can you, first off, can you imagine 2, 3, 4-year-olds coloring? Yeah, okay. Please do not tell me we're about to enter a racial component here. Now, I might be jumping to conclusions like a parkour master, but I'm just. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt Barnes. Not sure if you're equating me with Jesus or Israel Keys. Either way, thanks a lot, Scribe. But that's my point. That's my point. None of those things constitute an identity of their own accord. None of those things do. They're just adjectives. They're just descriptors. So, Matt Barnes, you are in the descriptive realm, in the same league with Jesus Christ and Israel Keys.
Congratulations.
A saint and a sinner. You can be somewhere in the middle. You can be beyond either one of them for all I know. Okay. Those kids are learning how to color. Uh-huh. And oops, what did I do?
Did you break
what happened? Did I break it? Okay, we were at 10:58. Sorry guys, I don't know what happened there. The video decided to reset itself. That happened once before. I don't know what does that. We were at 10:58.
I think it has something to do with starting and stopping.
Could be. All right. I'm glad I at least caught the timestamp before that reset. Okay.
And they, in fact, love to color.
Uh-huh.
And what if, when our 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds were learning how to color,
yes,
what if we reached into our pocket and we pulled out 2 crayons, pink and blue?
Oh, God. Really?
Here comes weightless example.
And we said, draw us a picture of who you are. Draw us all who you imagine yourself to be, but we'd like you to do it with just 1 crayon.
A 2, 3, or 4-year-old. Okay.
Pink or blue.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm sorry, you actually can't choose both. You have to pick one, pink or blue.
I am dying to know where this is going.
Imagine all the pictures we would never see.
What?
Imagine all the vividness and color that kids could imagine themselves to be and that they see reflected back to them in the world.
What? Oh, I see.
You're catching it. You're catching it.
Oh, I was being very literal there for a second.
Are you drinking too? Because you probably should be.
Maybe a smidge. Okay, so imagine all the pictures we wouldn't see if we only gave them 2 options.
I understand what she's getting at. If we try to put kids into boxes and tell them you can only be A or B, then they'll never get to figure themselves out, which on the face of it sounds logical.
Yeah, but here's the thing that she's missing.
Mm-hmm.
Boxes of crayons come in more than 2 colors.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just let kids do what they're going to do, you don't have to start categorizing them or making them think about categorizing themselves.
Yeah. And the problem I have with that is that by presenting them with the entire box of crayons and saying, here, draw yourself, they kind of go, okay, well, I'll just pick, whichever one looks the prettiest to me. Not because it actually fucking matters.
Tail feature, hey, Feskama, feminists appropriated pink for girls as it was originally a boy's color. That is true. Historically speaking, that is true. Okay, so in your back pocket, do you have a whole bunch of different crayons, or just a bunch of melted wax because you're really warm?
I'm also sorry. I was trying to follow another train of thought along with that. So, what you honestly should be saying to the kid isn't that they need to pick blue or pink, but just that the color of the crayon you use to draw yourself doesn't matter. To me, that's what the message we should be sending. What this doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. It's irrelevant. It should be an irrelevancy to assessing another person, even yourself. Just
the broken pieces of your brain, or the way your brain is broken, doesn't mean that it defines everything you are. Like I said, I don't put that I'm trans in my bios on social media and stuff because it's not relevant to the conversation of who I am.
Right. It doesn't define you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a part of you, certainly, but it doesn't say anything about who you are inherently.
Yeah.
All right.
Imagine all that we would miss.
Uh-huh.
And now imagine if we handed them this.
Which we do. Thank you, Gear PG. Eve, yes, says Gear in response to what you just said. Thank you, Gear. Imagine if we handed them this. Okay, this still, so far, this does not discount the notion that we're seeing upticks in these numbers you spoke of because of a trend / a fad / people like you promoting them as things to be taught to small children. So I'm still waiting to hear that argument.
Imagine if we handed them a box of 64 crayons. And instead of saying pick one, we said pick as many as you would like.
How about we just not ask them those questions at 2, 3, and 4 and just let them be kids and grow up as they will? Imagine that.
Maybe be the adult in the room and just, if you see the kid consistently picking pink and wearing dresses and doing things like that, maybe you can then subtly ask them, why do you feel that way? Why do you prefer these things? And maybe look into that rather than giving them these options and asking them questions they don't know how to answer.
I just had a thought. THOUGHT. I'm going to circle contradicts on pointer argument because I just recalled when she was telling the story about her own son, her disappointment with his choice, and then backing up and saying, I can't know the answer to that question, but not giving at least the benefit of the doubt or respect to her own kid that he made a decision for himself, contradicts the whole thing she was saying earlier about how 2, 3, and 4-year-olds suddenly have all the wisdom of the ages when it comes to gender and gender identity. So I've circled contradicts on pointer argument, guys. It just occurred to me as she's making this little discussion. Okay.
Show us who you are. Tell us all the stories.
That's not.
Pick one for a while that's your favorite, and then pick another one, and then go back to your original favorite. If you can imagine it, then you can draw it.
That's the thing.
It is my.
That is the thing to me that's the problem is you're telling them to treat their gender like it's a crayon. Like, I understand it doesn't matter at the same time. At the same time, you're going to confuse the hell out of any and everyone around them and cause them extra stress that they don't fucking need or want.
Why do they have to be asked this question at all, speaker? A 2, 3, 4-year-old. Why is it so important that you ask these questions to 2, 3, and 4-year-olds? I mean, if there's one repeatedly frustrating thing about watching TEDx is that I think, of course, because I'm me, very simple but very relevant questions I would just be dying to ask these speakers and get their honest reaction. I just can't do it, as we're talking about a recording. Because all of these things, I always have so many questions about where they're coming from, how they arrived at this conclusion, and not necessarily to disprove them or make it into a debate or something. I just want to know why. Why did you get there? How did you get there? I may not agree with you. I want to understand. For no other reason that either, like I said before, either I'll learn something, or I'll have a better understanding of something that I don't agree with that I can have a response to if it comes up later on in the future. What's up?
God damn it, Mr. Dax. If gender is a crayon, then Navy people would eat them. God damn it.
Oh, no. Oh, no. All right.
Then you can draw it.
Yes.
It is my foundational belief
Yes.
that we all know who we are from a very young age, including the truest expression of our gender identity.
Then you would be wrong. I in the last 4 years, I was just talking about this on Undoom stream earlier. In the last 4 years, falling into this whole YouTube thing, I woke up this morning and I was thinking about doing the show today, and I stopped for a second and I thought to myself, basically listen to yourself. You're thinking about setting this up and making sure this graphic is done and this, that, and the other. And would you have had any concept of thinking of these things or putting these things into your life or anything else a couple of years ago? I was like, no, I wouldn't even. Would you be as comfortable now talking publicly about controversial subjects as you were 4 or 5 years? No. Are you as comfortable listening to the sound of your own voice at this stage of the game as you were for hell no.
No.
We do not know ourselves in totality, I would argue, at any point in our lives, especially when we're 2 or 3 or 4. If your life is not even incrementally a constant journey of self-discovery, like I say, even in small ways, I'm not quite sure what that means. I can't imagine someone who is absolutely static. I don't know what that would be like, short of being like in a coma or something. So to say that a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old suddenly has all this, again, you are imbuing a sense of excellence, of thought and consideration into children that is not there.
Mm-hmm.
And not only are you projecting that onto them, I'd say almost unhealthily that you have that expectation of them that is ridiculous. And you're a pediatrician. You're going into your work, looking at a child, thinking you're looking at some kind of instantaneous genius prophet of their own self. Like, really? A 3-year-old, a 4-year-old has self-awareness to the extent that you do at this point in your life? It bugs me so much.
Spoiler alert. They don't.
This bugs me so much. Okay. Obviously so. I've got a complex. I don't know what to tell you.
And we actually spend most of our lives searching for the words and the tools and the safety and the agency to share ourselves.
What the? Hold on. Wait a second. Did I?
She just contradicted herself again.
We are from a very...
Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. I just...
can draw it.
Okay, here we go. 12:18.
It is my foundational belief.
Your foundational belief.
That we all know who we are from a very young age, including the truest expression of our gender identity.
That we all know who we are from a very young age.
But she just got through saying we search for the tools to okay.
And we actually spend most of our lives searching for the words and the tools and the safety and the agency to share ourselves.
Okay, it's not an inherent contradiction. If I know who I am at a very young age, but the problem is I just can't find the right words to express it.
Take a creative writing class, motherfucker. Don't fuck around with your gender.
So then, may I ask, O speaker, are you then the wise guide to help elicit from me the truth of myself that I've known this whole time but just didn't have the tools to express? Is that it? Is that what you do? You provide children the tools to express themselves. They just don't know how to because they don't have your guidance.
With the world.
Uh-huh.
Queer author and activist Leslie Feinberg said, "Gender is the poetry we write with the language we are taught."
What? I'm getting ready to circle word salad. Thank you, Cyber Grendel, for the Dogcat Fox. Good job. Yes, good job. Right, Dogcat Fox?
Dogcat Fox.
Dog, cat, fox. That's right. I don't care what anybody else says. Dog, cat, fox. You're great.
Gender is the poetry we write with the language we are taught.
Yeah, you said that once already. Okay. What does that mean to you?
If we give kids the language, if we open the box of crayons for us, they will tell us.
If we open the box of crayons for us, Freudian slip?
Who they are.
Uh-huh.
So no, I don't think that this is a trend.
You haven't disproven that with what you've said. Nothing you've said just now, unless you got some other comeback.
Or a fad. I think that this is the revealing of a truth that has always existed. And kids can't draw the truth of themselves with just one crayon. Child advocate Marian Wright Edelman said, "Kids cannot become that which they cannot see."
I'm going to tear her analogy apart and say sometimes your life only gives you the one crayon to draw with, and you got to make do with what the fuck you got. You know, I know people who are in a position that cannot transition. They would love to, but they can't because of various life situations. And it doesn't mean that that makes them any more or less trans just because they've only got one crayon to draw their life with. But, you know.
And as far as the kids cannot become what they cannot see, why was there a first female astronaut?
Mm-hmm.
Why was there a first black professional baseball player?
Mm-hmm.
This argument's been made to death and other things. Kids are name your demographic can't aspire to be XYZ unless they see themselves in da 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 da. Nonsense.
Ooh, that's
nonsense.
That's a good analogy, Brad Young. Only one color, learn how to shade.
And also, tell me true, oh speaker, how are you the way you are?
Mm-hmm. Who told you that you could be the way you are?
Yeah.
And kids today are seeing more and more LGBTQ folks, people like me, people like the actors and actresses on this screen.
Uh-huh. What does that have to do with anything? Is that still not indicative that it might be a fad thing? That people are being told that this is a popular way to behave and express yourself. This will get you attention and love and adoration and so on and so forth. Could it not be the case that societally we are in our own kind of transitional phase where, yes, we are far more, thankfully, accepting of alternate ways of living, but we are at a point where we're so happy to finally be accepting of people that we're placing this entire concept on a pedestal where it probably shouldn't be, that at some point we'll have to come back down to earth where it doesn't matter. It does not say anything about you because you like to sleep with a certain kind of person or you dress a particular way or anything else. Is this
I'd like
not...
to believe we'd get to that place where, you know, someone's gender or identity doesn't matter. We treat men and women the same, and therefore being trans has no effect on anything.
Yeah.
You know, who someone sleeps with has no effect on anything.
And yet, over and over and over again, I see articles, we just read them on the news a couple of weeks ago. It's like first, I'm making up a hypothetical, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. First, black transgender person elected to Senate or something like that. They don't even use the person's name.
Yeah,
first and foremost, it doesn't matter. Yeah, who they are doesn't matter. What they are has to be promoted as though it is some defining element of them. Doesn't say how they'll govern, doesn't say anything about their personal experience, just says something about how they live their life, which is irrelevant. So, like I said, the questions I would love to pose our speaker. Do you think as a society we are not raising above relevance, actual relevance, these elements of people's makeups to the point where it is influencing young and impressionable people to think, this is how I get love. This is how I get attention. Not because their bodies are telling them so or their mindsets are telling them so inherently, but because they're craving for affirmation. They're craving for attention in a digital social media world where your relevance in society is based on how many subscribers you've got. You don't think that any of that has anything to do with these trends that you're seeing? Seriously? I mean, I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong. But is it wrong for me to ask that question, all things considered? Thank you. Thank you, Lady Gopher, for the Dog Cat Fox. Big smiley Dog Cat Fox. Okay, sorry, guys. We only got 3 minutes left. It's been a long haul. We're almost there. Okay.
More than ever before, we are giving them a bigger box of crayons. And they are actually drawing for us more imaginative pictures of what it means to be a boy or a girl or something in between.
Did you notice that all the people in that photo were adults? Why don't you have a whole slew of 2, 3, and 4-year-old examples? Wasn't that the point of this?
Than many of us can ever remember.
Uh-huh.
And so what is our job as parents, as pediatricians, as
I am dying to know, what is your job as a pediatrician parent?
Aunts, uncles, grandparents, friends, neighbors, teachers.
Let the kids be kids and grow up and have them make their own decisions.
Yep.
That should be the role.
Tell them you'll love them no matter what they decide.
Yeah. Wait and see how your kid develops on their own. Encourage them in the things they're interested in. Support them, put Band-Aids on them when they're hurt, take care of them when they're sick, and see what kind of person they will grow into. Maybe that's the strategy. I don't know. What are we supposed to do? Tell me, oh, tell me true.
Our job is to listen.
Yeah.
Our job is to ask interesting questions.
Maybe.
And then listen for the answer.
Interesting or leading? Because I got a feeling you might not know the difference between the two.
Who are you? What do you like?
Not
what
a
makes
single
you
one of those kids is trans.
Feel like you. And when kids begin to show themselves to us, we support them without steering.
Do you? Do you? It seems to me that you had steering wheels well and truly drilled into your 3 boys' heads. It seems to me. I could be wrong. Seems to me, given your ridiculous hangdog disappointment face when your son decided not to wear dresses anymore. Are you sure that you didn't have a little bit of a control switch you were hoping you were applying to that kid? Just a little?
We reveal our own gender identities. We ask and share names and pronouns. We give them all the examples of what it means to be a boy or a girl or transgender or something in between.
Or not bring it up at all. Or just not even dwell on it. Just let things run their course. Maybe do you not see how bringing up these issues at all is steering the kid to try to say and do things that will make you happy?
Mm-hmm.
Are you oblivious to this? Really? Pediatrician? Parent? You say not to steer the kids, and yet you have very specific categories of things that you are concerned with to ask your kids about.
What I've learned in my role as a pediatrician for the last 15 years, and as a pediatrician who specializes in the care of transgender and gender diverse kids, is that these kids don't need me to figure them out.
What? But
you're a pediatrician. It's not your job to figure them out.
Not only that, but haven't you just spent the whole talk telling us that you need to figure these kids out? That you need to offer them all the crayons so they can express themselves with the tools they don't possess?
They need to figure themselves out because they're perfectly capable at the age of 4 of figuring that shit out.
Yeah, because, at 2 and 3 and 4, we know about who we are. We just don't have the tools to express them. So I'm going to hand these kids all the crayons they need to express themselves.
I'm 33 and I haven't figured myself out.
They need me to listen, to really listen.
Uh-huh.
And to help them amplify the voice that's inside them.
Help amplify the voice inside them, which is obviously not going through a filter of your own personal bias. You ever see those or hear those stories about back in the 80s when there was like an absolute, almost satanic panic about child abuse and things, and you had these interviewers come in and talk to kids like, show me on the doll where the person, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There were all these scandals about the leading questions and the kids wanting to please the adult in the room. And so they'd say whatever they thought the other person wanted to hear. And then they'd use that as evidence of wrongdoing. And now we have a pediatrician here who's like, I'm going to help guide them and give them the words they need to express. No, that's not your role. You're a pediatrician. You're not a child psychologist. What does that have to do with the biology of a child and being a doctor for that child? What? Okay, I'm starting to give myself a headache.
They don't actually need me to diagnose them. They need me to help them be heard.
You specialize in a particular diagnosis. You're a doctor. What are you there for if not to diagnose things? And when you tell people that you are a specialist in a particular psychological diagnosis for tiny, impressionable children, how can you say that you're not there to diagnose them? That you do not advertise yourself in this way to get parents to bring you their children who they've already probably self-diagnosed this way. Seriously?
Or even worse, ones that don't know better.
Yeah.
But they just say, oh, well, I mean, I saw on the news that they talk about, trans kids need to go to someone who's a specialist like this. So surely, I mean, this person has the best interest of my child in mind and not an agenda, right?
There's nothing more understandable and dangerous than a scared parent.
Yeah.
There was this documentary on Frontline many years ago called The Medicated Child, all talking about, ADHD and treating kids for bipolar at 4 years old and all this other crazy crap. And even if you go back even further to, there's a story on NPR several years ago where this guy did a whole presentation called My Lobotomy, and how he was taken as a young child, I think in the 60s, to get a transorbital lobotomy because his stepmother thought he was being too rowdy. And a worried parent doing something that they think or believe is going to do well for their child, but they overreact and they do something extreme, with the road to hell paved in good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you stand there and say you're a pediatrician who specializes in transgender or gender diverse children and say you're not a diagnostician? Come on.
And when these kids begin to show themselves to us, when they start down that brave journey of self-discovery, we remind them that they are beautiful and strong and resilient.
I mean, yeah, but you do that anyway.
Are you telling the children that, or are you speaking to yourself right now to try to convince yourself of something?
Like, that's the thing I've been preaching this whole time is like, yeah, tell the kids that they're beautiful and strong and worthwhile anyway. Tell them that you love them no matter what. Those should be the messages you're giving the kids, not trying to lead them in a particular direction based on their gender identity. It's just...
And by the way, would you be saying all of those things about a kid who was not expressing themselves in the way that you prefer? If your son, and I know it's such a crazy example, if your son decided, you know what, Mappa, I don't like dresses. I'm just a boy. I bet she would still call her son beautiful and resilient and brave and everything else. But again, I have to wonder, given her down low expression upon confessing that her son did not like to wear dresses anymore, would she be 100% sincere in saying that? This is very disturbing to me. Okay, we're almost done.
And most importantly, we love them.
Yes.
We fully and fiercely and wholeheartedly love them. And if we do this, our kids will draw for us the most beautiful pictures of who they are. They will write for us the beautiful poetry of their identities.
What if they do it all in a blue crayon? Would you be able to accept that? If your sons just picked the blue crayon and nothing else? I wonder.
And in doing this, they will expand the world of gender. And not just for them, but for all of us.
So you are an activist. You have an agenda. thank you for finally saying it so plainly.
Because how many of us were given just 2 crayons to choose from, but longed for a bigger box? How many of us were never given the right tools or language to describe our own identities?
I assume you were among those few. And now you're trying to make up for it by training other adults to see things the way you do so they can pass it on to their kids. So you don't have to feel alone. Maybe.
You see, in loving and supporting transgender and gender diverse kids, we're not only helping them be more free and true versions of themselves, we're helping all of us have the language we need to discover ourselves. Leslie Feinberg also said, "My right to be me is tied with 1,000 threads to your right to be you." Because after all, we all deserve a bigger box of crayons. Thank you.
Oh my God. I'm so glad that's over. I'm about to have an aneurysm.
Okay, so let me bingo card out here for everyone's edification. We're going to go straight into it and try to get out of this as quickly as we can because I know Eve and I are pretty exhausted. All right, guys. So we have marginalization. So here's what we're going to do, guys. Eve and I are going to go over this once, and then if there are any questions left over, we'll go to the chat for arguments for squares to be circled. So if you have arguments, hold on to them. We might circle the square momentarily, and then by the end of it, if we don't, we'll take claims. Okay. So Eve, marginalization. Now, I don't believe she ever said the word specifically. In aggregate, do you think that these concepts were presented?
I don't think so. She didn't talk about marginalized. Yeah. Well, no, hang on. She did go into about how trans kids are bullied more than all others and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. So circling marginalization. Let me update that there. Is this showing up on the window okay? Hold on. Let me shrink it down a little bit for the folks at home. Is that enough? No,
yeah, I can see it.
I just want to make sure the whole... That's better. Okay. Takes credit for something done, experienced by others in their demographic. Now, as an example, because I did a video once where a lady came out and said, rap music was invented by black people. We invented it. White people only use it. And so she was taking credit, essentially, for something her whole demographic, etc. So anything in this seemed to fall within those lines, you think?
I don't think so.
Yeah, she didn't really... It's difficult to tell because she was talking about one demographic, essentially, as the bulk of her content. So it wasn't like...
A demographic which she obviously belongs to. So
a demographic she belongs to. And while obviously I did bring up the possibility / likelihood that she was expressing her own personal experiences as the baseline for all such people in her demographic, she wasn't taking credit for it. She was expanding outward or using her own self. So yeah, leaves out vital context.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that one because and again, chat, if you have an example, hold on to it. Give us a couple minutes. I can't think of anything she brought up where there wasn't an explanation. And it might not have been a good explanation, but there was an explanation. There was a rationale to what she was saying.
Yeah.
Feminism, no. She actually, surprisingly enough, she didn't get into gender politics so much, which is kind of odd. Because I suppose she couldn't without betraying one side or the other. Anecdote that probably never happened. I believe all of her anecdotes. I didn't find anything inherently deceptive about anything that she was talking about. Like I said, especially the one where she gave us the anecdote where the outcome was something that made her sad. Those are the ones that I believe the most, because otherwise, usually an anecdote that never happened is one you insert into your presentation to bolster your argument, even though it's ridiculous. So I'm going to go past that one. Toxic. No, she never used the word. I didn't hear anything about poison or anything. Word salad. Okay.
I would, on the toxic part, I would kind of go, wouldn't you consider it that the whole way that she spoke about our attitudes towards gender and socializing children about gender?
Oh, that they're toxic ideas.
Yeah. She didn't use those words specifically, but she did imply very heavily that she disagreed with the way we do it. Or she openly said she did.
Yeah. Okay. I am now on the fence. Chat, come up with a good corroboration for Eve on that. From an example from the talk. If you can find an example from the talk, we'll see.
Back me up, chat. Don't let me down.
Word salad. Okay, now this one I'm struggling with because I didn't feel like anything she was belting out was just complete gobbledygook. At the same time, though, I feel like there was at least one or two instances in there where she just kind of like babbled about nothing. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, to your point of like, you did ask what a couple of times at one point.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
exactly remember what it was, but
that is true. Okay, so all right, I'll circle word salad. It's not. I get really, really stingy if it's the last square before a bingo. But in that case, okay, benevolent condescension. I feel like there was a lot in there because she was talking down to society at large for apparently doing some dishonor to children by just letting them be kids. You know, and also, honestly, I think there's, I don't know if there's a reverse to this, but benevolent, maybe not condescension, but
she's doing you a favor by telling you all of this.
Well, it's almost like benevolent elevation by saying that 4-year-olds have the wherewithal to be able to tell anybody the nature of their true being. I mean, I find that even more insidious than just benevolent condescension. You're at least talking down to someone. In this instance, she's talking up individuals who have no idea. So I don't know if that fits specifically. But, well, I guess it's also the reverse of that is the sense that you're telling me that you know that 4-year-olds have a deeper insight into themselves than I do at 40, which doesn't make any sense.
And that we're holding them back by giving them only 2 crayons to define their lives with.
Yeah, I'm gonna circle benevolent condescension because that just doesn't sit right. Okay, there's where we are. A list.
I don't recall one.
I mean, if you talk about her rattling off the statistics and everything. Okay, it's the last square before a bingo, so I'm going to let that sit. Chad, if you want to give me a list from the presentation, I'll take it. Patriarchy, no. Wage gap, no. She never got economics. Systemic institutional. She used society enough times, and schools and things. I'm gonna circle that one. The expectations of XYZ PDQ. So that makes it for me. Privilege, no, not that I recall.
Not that I recall.
Self-vilification or wretchedness, by no means did she make herself
definitely not
poor and terrible. Equity, I mean, in concept, sort of. I mean, so equity either as a buzzword or as an encompassing seeking equality of outcome. I mean, she was arguing for equality of treatment, which ultimately I can't argue with as a notion. But equality of outcome, I don't know about that. That's weightless example. Weightless example. I mean, the story of her own son rejecting the whole dress thing. I mean, I don't know if that's a weightless example. I mean, she made it into a weightless example, kind of by her own argument. And I'm hesitant to circle that one on that basis because I already did contradict's own point or argument on that one.
Yeah. Otherwise,
the 80% are bullied is kind of a weightless example.
Yeah. Because that's because the majority of kids are bullied in general. That's just a
yeah. Okay, I'm circling weightless example for that one because that doesn't tell us anything about anything. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Nope. Even though I had my suspicions when she got into crayons that were going into a race thing. Nope, she didn't. But either way, her entire presentation was based around gender. Her bringing up sex and gender had a reason. So, and lastly, white supremacy. No, there was no, surprisingly enough, there was no racial component to this whatsoever. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, that's where the card sits right now. I'll take the last couple minutes here for arguments for any other squares to be circled. You're going to need a really good example. Well, maybe not a really good example, but just a specific example for a list. And anything beyond that, yeah, I'm going to need a good one. So here we go. Snow Pilot, Scribelight, the way she talked about how other families not letting their sons wear dresses was dripping with toxic judgment. Okay, I'll put that one aside for a second. Mike R, cis privilege.
She didn't ever quite talk about it like that. Like I agree that she probably thinks that, but at the same time, I didn't get that message from the talk, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
yeah, you're hoping for it.
God damn it.
And Mappa's entire talk was to stress that our current takes on gender identity and roles for children is toxic. We need to do better. We are influencing them with toxic stereotypes. I'll take that. Yeah. This may indeed be the last bingo card with toxic on it, because it is such a, you really have to jump through hoops sometimes to make it fit. But in that case, I will take that because the spirit of the word and its use lately does fit. So thank you, Lexi, and thank you, Snow Pilot. Good job on that. Let me update the, refresh the page. Okay. So now the challenge is leaves out vital context, anecdote that probably never happened, and a list. Those are the holy trilogy here if we want to get any bingos, guys. Keeverdam leaves out vital context. Since she didn't specifically say who'd he be punished by if he stopped wearing dresses. Well, the argument there was that he was being punished for being made fun of for wearing dresses. Oh, you talking about the reverse, like what society would? Is that it? Keeverdam, can you give me that one more time? Clarify, just make sure I understand it, just to make sure. Mr. No Scribelight, the dinosaur anecdote is BS. No, I believe it. She took something that actually spoke against her point, but she framed it as though it was something that proved her point.
Yeah.
That tells me that's an anecdote that actually happened because she decided to transmogrify it in her brain into something that is actually beneficial to her argument.
Contradicted herself in that.
Yes, she really did. Some Emily says, don't think there's a bingo today. I don't know. I could see an argument for a list. I could see arguments for leaves out vital context. The anecdote that never happened, you're really going to have to wow me with that one, because wowie wow with that one, because I don't...
Yeah, she had pretty good anecdotes.
That one certain is Tanya Scribelight. She didn't mention how many kids get bullied in general, so if it wasn't weightless example already, it'd be fit for leaves out vital... Yeah, it was already a weightless example, which she talked about 80% of transgender kids be bullied in schools. Most kids are bullied in schools in some way, shape, or form, depending on how you define bullying, so that didn't fly. Thank you. This is Kyle. Hello, chat people, Scribbles, and Eve. Sorry I missed the show. We'll have to catch it on the playback, but it'll be here for you.
Make sure you get something strong to drink before you do.
Brad Young, Scribelight. I'm petitioning that benevolent condescension have the polar opposite be on the same square, given your circling of it. Benevolent condescension / unjustified elevation. Something like that. I'll think about it. Let's see. Some emulation. She leaves out context, but was it vital? Well, vital to describe whatever the item is. Like I said, it all depends on the example you're giving me. Dilfruit, sir, are you talking about the Crusades and conscripting children? Well, I called the thumbnail a children's crusade because I was just guessing at what our speaker was going to talk about, and I don't think I was far off the mark.
No.
Let's see. One certain is Tanya Scribelight. You know that study about kids and toys you mentioned that she didn't bring up, even though her presentation was entirely about gender? Yes. Oh, it leaves out that kind of context? Oh, the biological reflexes towards boy things and girl things.
Because there is a lot of strong evidence to that, and she left that out.
Oh, Satania.
Girl.
You know what you just did? Why, you just got us.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
There we go, guys. We have a bingo.
I love that.
Good job, Satania. You're absolutely right. And I brought that up myself. You're right. The pediatrician who decides to decline to admit to the genetic and or biological realities of children's instincts towards one thing or the other based on gender. Very good. Very good. Okay, guys, I'm going to call it here. This has been a long haul, a long slog. We got to a bingo. You're welcome to take arguments over a list, the statistics she threw out, and so on, or the number of. Actually, you know what? Remember when she listed off all the different kinds of genders there are?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. I think I just did it to myself. She did say gender queer, non-binary. Remember that?
Oh, she did do that. She did list off a bunch of
genders. Oh,
genders.
you know what, guys? I just did it to myself.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
All right. Well, guys, there you go. That is it. That's where we're at. I'm going to call it here. Double bingo. This was a tough one, as you guys know, both for me and I'm more than certain for Eve. But with that, call it here. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you so much for your participation and argumentation. It's the show.
I will say, Scribe, there's a reason why I don't come watch these from you, because I only have so much alcohol that I can imbibe, you know. But I do enjoy your stuff. You always have very clever and insightful commentary on these things, but I can only take so much of this level of stupid.
I understand, and this is why I try to space mine out by at least a day or two, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it.
Yes.
If you have not already, please do check out the links in the description for Eve's YouTube channel, Eve's Twitch channel, and her Twitter. Go check those out. Sign up and follow if you can.
Don't forget about S&M.
Yes, the Say No More show. When is your next broadcast of Say No More, Eve?
Say No More is every Saturday at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. So,
and that's on your YouTube channel?
Yes. Well, it's on the S&M Say No More channel.
Oh, the Say No More channel. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll add that to the list in the description after the show.
Sorry. Chat there. But this weekend, our guest is going to be Irate Alex. So be sure to tune in, because I'm just going to sit back and relax and watch him and Tally go at each other and try to tear each other down like Brits do. So,
and what's your next Twitch gaming stream going to be?
That's going to be tonight at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern.
And what will you be playing?
I think tonight we're supposed to be playing Parasite Eve again. Okay. Assuming that doesn't pan out for whatever reason, I guess I'll figure out what to do. Oh no, I have an idea what I'll do next. So
okay, well I'll figure out a pun in between now and then to put out there when the time comes. But everyone, again, thank you so much for joining us. If you'd like to hear more from me or Satsu 2 Cents or the Ranting Monkey, you can find all three of us tomorrow night, Monday night, on Satsu 2 Cents' channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the Lords of the Night, where we'll talk about the news of the day, news stories that you submit, what we've been up to on the internet, and then your questions and comments. Everyone, again, thank you for joining us. Eve, thank you so much for joining me for this. I know it was a rough one.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone, I hope you all have a good rest of your Sunday. Please stay safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.